So I'm an atheist, and I have actually been doing a whole lot of research into, what the world was like about, 20,000 years ago, back when the world was still within its ice age, where we're talking like 2 to 3 mile thick glaciers over the majority of the planet.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And this was just, a blink of an eye ago on the cosmic scale of the planet.
Less than.
13,000 years ago seems long, but, in reality, it's not. But I'm in the research I'm doing, I've been looking into a whole bunch of scientists known as like Randall Carlson and a bunch of other guys who are starting to suggest that during the Ice Age, about, roughly 15,000 years ago, that there was a massive comet or meteor impact on the planet that melted all of the ice at one time. Not all of the ice, obviously, but a very large portion of it. And this, would devastate the planet, obviously. And there's many places on the planet where you can go and see the actual effects of this. A place known as Camas Prairie, where there's massive ripple deposits, sediment deposits, 50 feet high, and Potholes Cataract, which is a massive scar across the Washington state, where a massive body of water had come through that area at one time and just wreaked havoc on the land. And so I think this is, I hear people believe in the biblical story, of Noah and whatnot. But I think the mistake that they're making is that they're taking something like, let's say, Hansel and Gretel, a story where, kids were dumped in the woods by their parents. They came across a candy house with a witch. They're taking these fine details of everything and making it to be fact, when in fact there was no candy house, like there was no Noah's Ark.
Wait, what?
But the fact that people took their kids out in the woods and dumped them because they couldn't feed them is where that story originates from, is why that story exists. And I feel that this event happened, and we're coming very close to proving it. It's not official scientific proof yet. It's still being argued on the board, but in my opinion, the evidence for this event is starting to really overweigh the idea that it took thousands
Sorry,
of years.
Is the event you're referring to children finding a candy house?
I'm sorry, what?
You're talking about this event, and I'm not entirely sure what event you're referring to. You did mention Hansel and Gretel being dumped, the story of Hansel and Gretel wherein children are dumped in a forest and find a candy house. And after that, you started talking about an event and this event being demonstrated and supported by science. Are you telling me that candy scientists have found a house?
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
I apologize if I misspoke.
No, you're fine. I would be surprised if that was the case, but I've certainly been surprised before by things probably stranger than a candy house. Go on.
No, I'm not arguing for a candy house.
I just wanted to clarify, because there was a whole lot of all right, let's talk about rain and how it exists.
Jamie?
I was about to get into.
Jamie?
What else did you want to say,
You are
Elias?
precious to me. I need you to know this. That entire exchange was precious.
It's possible.
Let's let Elias tell us what he's actually putting forward.
Yeah. What are you actually talking about, Elias?
What I'm actually putting forward is that 13,000 years ago, there was a massive melt of the glaciers that covered Canada and North America that would be waters, 800 to 1,000 feet deep, a massive tsunami coming across the landscape. And it wasn't an entire covering of the planet, because clearly some people survived because we're still here. But if you're somebody living at that time up in North America and you witnessed this event happen, your entire world would be gone. Everything. There would be nothing left. And this is the origin of the Noah's story. It's also within the Sumerian text and the cuneiform tablets that we've gotten.
Yeah, there's lots of flood stories.
This story has been covered across the planet for thousands of years of this massive flood. And it's been twisted and distorted.
Well,
what it is in the book.
Stories of massive floods and gods causing them, my understanding is that they tend to happen around cultures where massive floods occurred, which is cool. But, I mean, you did mention flooding, melting event.
That's actually false. That's actually false.
Oh, okay.
The stories of this flood originate all around the same time period. And with the first written history we have of this event is from the Sumerians. And this is a flood. Yes, areas flood. I'm not saying they don't. And, people can get stories. But the flood story that these ancient texts are putting forward was was something on a scale that we cannot fathom today.
Well, hold on.
It was a world-erasing event.
Well, we're fathoming it right now.
And maybe my geography off? Where is ancient Mesopotamia?
1,000 feet of water looks like coming across the landscape, but
Just to be clear, if it entirely erases the world and is of this world-erasing, people-erasing scale, presumably they could write very quickly on cuneiform tablets, and that those tablets would.
That's why it had to be passed down word of mouth for, who knows how many years until.
Presumably, you're talking about a worldwide flood.
Yeah.
A single event that different cultures that record giant floods are all definitely talking about.
And you do realize that ancient Mesopotamia geographically is not very far away from modern day Israel, right?
Yeah, what I was going to say, ancient Mesopotamia, they didn't have a maple leaf flag, right? That's the Tigris and Euphrates, not North America. But I understand, how are you connecting those two?
And I guess
I'm not taking their literal stories as the evidence.
What is the evidence that you're taking?
Interesting add-on to this. My evidence comes from the study that Randall Carlson and a whole bunch of other scientists are doing with they're taking sample cores out of the Greenland ice caps and whatnot, and saying that the temperature rose very rapidly about 13,000 years ago, which would cause a major melting of this ice. But on top of that, in the sedimentary layers containing iridium grains and glass-like carbon and nanodiamonds that date back 13,000 years ago would imply a comet or meteor strike on the planet. These items and these molecules are found within this specific layer, which would suggest a comet.
My understanding is that you're taking this evidence that's gathered from ice cores in North America and connecting it to Mesopotamian legends. Is that correct?
No, I'm not specifically connecting it to Mesopotamian legend. No, I'm connecting it to the fact that the entire planet, experienced a massive reset.
How do you get from North America to the entire planet?
Well, and I guess I really don't. Can I ask a quick clarifying?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So I believe comets exist, and I believe floods exist. Now, the clarifying question is, do you believe that a god caused it?
Absolutely not.
Then I really don't care.
I think people are getting wrong.
Then I really don't care.
Yeah.
I care about whether or not somebody thinks that a god got so mad that angels were sleeping with humans and creating giant and animal-human hybrids.
Agree.
So I really don't care.
Okay.
I'm on the same page, but here's why we should care. Here's why we should care.
Hit me with it.
This happened to our species. Okay, we survived through this event, and the stories that came later are what we have in these books. Okay, and for people to go around and say that there was absolutely no flood, there was absolutely no devastating event that took place.
To be very clear, the flood that is described, for example, in the Old Testament story, for example, that fundamentalist Christians in the United States are talking about right now, they are not saying 13,000 years ago. They are saying
I understand.
Less than 6,000 to 10,000 years ago.
And
additionally, ancient people passing down legends orally is not something that I would call an accurate geological record.
And also,
the
the point is not whether or not floods happened, because if you bring me somebody who says, I don't believe that floods happen, I'm not going to agree with that person either, right? The thing that we're trying to get to is whether or not God hit the reset button.
Yeah. Well,
right.
Elias has said he agrees on that.
Yeah. So, again,
I agree.
I guess I just don't see anywhere there's follow the evidence where it leads, because if the more we study, the more we learn. We follow it, brother. And
I think he's describing where he's followed the evidence.
Exactly. Thank you for saying it. Yes, I'm following the evidence that I'm doing, and I'm finding that this event did take place. And so this is where my next question would come in.
When you say this event, do you mean a global flood that killed everyone except for a single family of 8 people?
Well, no,
just to clarify.
Not. No.
Okay, so then when you're referring to this event, the event described in legends, you're saying ancient peoples came up with legends about why a big flood happened. Eric and I agree, and I think most people that are familiar with the geological evidence and what experts on, ancient flooding have said, an ancient flood happened. And I think most anthropologists would say, yes, and ancient peoples attributed this giant flood to gods, could agree on that. So I'm not sure how you're coming to the conclusion this event occurred. Sure, something inspired giant flood stories. I am very happy to conclude that a giant flood inspired giant flood stories, but
a massive flood inspired the flood stories.
Which
could there have
are you
been
referring
several?
to? Could there have been more than one flood?
There actually were multiple floods.
Okay.
So why are you saying a massive flood?
Well, and also here's the next thing.
They all happened during the same time.
So you're saying a period of warming occurred on the Earth that caused a series of flooding events that are referred to around the same time by ancient peoples who generally attribute them to supernatural causes.
Yes, and
cool.
They attributed everything to a supernatural cause back then. They attributed lightning to Thor. We can't accept their explanation for what was the cause. We can only take the story at its base value, which is the fact that there was a massive flood. And I'm not saying that we use that as a standpoint to find this. What got me started on this was listening to Randall Carlson on the Joe Rogan podcast talk about this and how it killed mammoths, it killed the hairy rhino, it killed the sloths, it killed the Clovis people. It devastated a massive portion of the planet.
I guess why should we care?
Well, no, I mean, are you encountering atheists?
Because if we can prove that this event happened naturally, and we can prove that, then it completely puts a nail in the coffin of this biblical flood with Noah's Ark.
No, it doesn't.
I mean, to be clear,
it doesn't. These are slippery motherfuckers, Elias. Let me tell you.
Depends on what you mean by nail.
It does not matter how much evidence you bring them. It does not matter. We bring with us every day that we step outside the fact that we live in a modern world that we have been able to build because we have a better and a growing understanding of math, science, biology. We are growing as a society, and all.
Which is why this is so important for those people who are on the edge of believing this or not, who finally do need the actual evidence to take that last step to realize, wow, this is all, this story I've been told is not true. I think this kind of facts is extremely important for those people.
Okay.
Sure, the fanatics continue to believe whatever they want, but for the people like me, who was in there, who was deep into it, and then realized it was like telling me the moon didn't exist when I found out, God didn't exist. Okay, it was hard. And it's stuff like this that I think will help those who are questioning to bring themselves out of that hole.
I don't know.
I agree.
Have a foundation.
I don't. I'm just too jaded, but I feel like if a Christian were told that a huge flood happened and we can prove it, then they're going to say, "See, I was right." Noah.
Hashtag not all Christians, but
it wasn't God. It was a comet striking a planet.
Yeah, and who put the comet there, Elias?
Yeah.
Who put the comet there?
How did the moon get there?
God did.
But what I will say is, Elias, it sounds like this was helpful in your deconversion.
Actually, this was much later. My deconversion happened 4 years ago.
Okay. Being presented with it's actually kind of surprising that there are, as anyone that believes these things fundamentally and then researches them on their own and has not been handed or taught a reliable epistemology, and then thinks about it and has the natural inclination to think critically enough to find their way out with the evidence that's available.
See, now I feel bad. I just feel like I'm super fucking jaded.
We got very aggressive.
I'm so jaded. I'm so jaded. They're never gonna get it. They're never gonna.
Everything's false. All right,
Elias, that is pretty cool. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what that will mean theologically.
Yeah.
But
all I would suggest is looking up Randall Carlson and looking into his work, and Graham Hancock. Even just go on the Joe Rogan podcast and just watch them show you the photos and all the evidence that this event did in fact take place and was later skewed to the stories we have in our books. Cool. And the moral of the story is just like the story between Hansel and Gretel, like I brought up earlier. Mm-hmm. I'm starting to think that there are underlining truths within these ancient texts that we have, and we have to sift through the bullshit that men have put in there to find out what actually happened. And
to be clear, they're all events recorded from the framework of the understanding of the people that recorded them. So yes, I think these are interesting documents to study from a rational, empirical standpoint. And I agree. Knowing more things is better. But we should probably wrap up this call.
Yeah, I was just going to say, read David Fitzgerald.
Yeah, he's good.
He's a really, really cool guy, and he's got some really fun stuff, and the scholarship is really fun. And if you're interested, and it seems like you are, really, of whether or not the historicity of different claims in the Bible pan out, I think you'd really enjoy it. So if you haven't read...
I have looked into that, and I'm aware of it.
Oh, my gosh. Just as a human being, he's fun, but as an author, he's amazing. So...
Yeah. All right. Well,
he's an amazing human being.
Elias, we're going to let you go, but I will say, I got a little bit aggressive in that call unnecessarily, but I'm glad you stuck in there.
Yeah.
No problem.
You're just like Eric in that way. All right.